Welcome back, traders. And today we had a very exciting day for Bitcoin and Bitcoin miners. I'm going to talk about a few things, and I'm going to be fast because I recorded this once, and wouldn't you guess it, the audio came out terribly. So we're going to redo this here. So Bitcoin today, have a look see here. So I'm going to show you one of the biggest reasons I'm in this trade. Look what happened with Bitcoin. Bitcoin had a great move today. We'll talk about how much that move was, but why? The SEC, meaning Gary Gensler and his team, they they lost their court case with Grayscale today, and a federal court in DC ruled that they denied the application for a Bitcoin spot ETF, kind of in a frivolous way, like they weren't following their own rules, basically. So that's what happened there, and as a result, Bitcoin took off, and Bitcoin took off about 7.6% today. That is huge. It went up almost $2,000 a coin today. But but you know what's more exciting? If you look at miners, look at Mara, 28.81% today. That is more than three times what Bitcoin did. That is a reason to buy miners instead of Bitcoin, on top of all the other reasons to buy miners instead of Bitcoin, actual stocks instead of Bitcoin. Bit Digital did 13.6%, almost double what Bitcoin did today. Bitfarms did 15.87%, a little more than double what Bitcoin did today. That is why I'm in the trade of Bitcoin mining stocks. Bitcoin moves a lot. It's very volatile, but these are even more volatile off of the volatility of Bitcoin. Now, that is a double-edged sword. When Bitcoin goes down, these really drop and it hurts a lot. So you really need the stomach for risk for volatility when you're playing with these stocks because they will burn you if you're not careful or if you're unprepared. So, fantastic. All the losses I saw from the last couple of weeks pretty much wiped out today, and we're back to almost break even on all the trades that I've been doing for the last few months. I feel very good about that. Now, let's take a look at these charts. Let's have a look at these charts. This is Mara. Let's go to the 2 hour. That might be a little easier to see it. Mara is really following this cup and handle quite nicely and went all the way to the bottom here. Not quite, but pretty close to all the way to the bottom here, and then it shot up here. Probably going to fiddle around here in this downward channel a little bit, maybe in this zone between 13.8 and $13 for a while. We could see a retest of 10, maybe, but I'm feeling like probably not off of how strong this move was. But let's have a look here. Look at how this charting is. This is so good. This was really good. So this this box here, it's been here forever. This downward trend, been here forever. I have not moved this. After we got this big upward momentum candle here, it just went perfectly inside of this. And then it just kissed the top of this at 1390 exactly before tapering off down and touching the top of this downward channel. It might play around at the top of this downward channel for a while before re-entering it, but wow. I'm really thinking we're probably going to retest the 12.50 to $12 range down in here, in this zone here, before moving upward again on Mara. But wow, was that such a good move. That felt great to see my chart just play out exactly the way I wanted it to. I don't really see it coming back down below 10. I think this is a really strong support. I think like with Bit Farms at 120, I think the $10 level for Mara is going to be a similar zone for this stock, whereas we may come back and touch it, but we're not likely to go below it unless something catastrophic happens in the market. Now let's take a look at BitDigital. What's BitDigital doing? BitDigital's followed our downward trend perfectly, just perfectly here until it broke out, came all the way to the top here, touched, just slightly tapped the bottom side of my line here before tapering off. And this line, as if you've watched any of my videos, you've seen that this has been here for a while. I drew this pink one today when I was previously recording, and I'll explain that in a moment. But this here is acting similarly to like this zone up here. Remember when I was calling this a shelf here and that we needed to break below this shelf to see lower levels in the stock? Well, that's exactly what's going on down here. We now have a new shelf, and this time we're knocking on the bottom of that shelf instead of the top. We need to get above this 272 level, hold it, come back test it a little, and then run up from there. That's what I'm expecting. And with this pink line here, if you look down at the RSI, this is an RSI divergence. If you don't know what an RSI divergence is, it's basically when the price of the stock is doing something different from the oscillator on the RSI. And if you can see here, we bottomed on the RSI back here on August 18th. And the RSI went up from there as we made new lows. So we made new lows in price, but we made higher lows on the RSI. That's an RSI divergence. So when we broke this pink line here, this is showing that the RSI divergence is correcting itself. We're going to go probably move up from here. We're going to come back test this pink line probably, and then from there move back up, retest 272. Hopefully break above it on the fourth tap here. You see 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to count these as one since they're so close together. So there's 1, 2, 3, and then the next one will be 4, and hopefully break through and move back up into this zone here, maybe even above $3. But $3 will be a big psychological level to break through on Bit Digital. Let's have a look see at Bit Farms. What's going on with Bit Farms? This is the Canadian version. I don't know what's going on with that. It's the same basically, but slightly different. Anyways, Bit Digital. As I mentioned before, it's got better relative strength to its peers. It already bottomed out at 120. Probably, it could still go lower, but probably bottomed out at 120 from what we're looking at on this chart. We're now in this upward trend here. We came through it, tested the bottom again perfectly, and then we just shot right through it, right up to the top of this box here that I drew quite a long time ago, and then tapered off from there and just stayed within that zone, that really tight zone after we went to the top again. That's a pretty good supply zone I drew right there, as well as a pretty good demand zone I drew down here. I feel very good about my charting today. It all played out very nicely. I'm very happy with all of it. It's just fantastic. I could not be happier with the way that these stocks have been playing out. It's almost as if I know what's going to happen. It's great. I love it. Anyways, not saying I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what's going to happen. And the stock will surprise me sometimes, but sometimes it doesn't. And I'm really happy when it doesn't. Anyways, we'll probably back test the green line here, this upward trend, before moving upward again. We may get stuck around here, maybe go a little bit below it somewhere over here and touch the midline of this upward trend again. But if we don't do that, that's going to be a pretty bullish sign of upward movement on Bit Farms. Now, this does hang on the price of Bitcoin. If we look at Bitcoin, that's not Bitcoin. If we look at the price of Bitcoin, we kind of followed my area here at 26,000. We jumped right up into this. We cut through this supply zone, right into the next supply zone, stopped near the top, touched this blue line that I moved to line up better with this orange one, and then came back down and touched the downward trend line perfectly before reversing. That is so good. This is probably exactly what's going to happen with some of the mining stocks. We're going to come back to some other trend lines that I've drawn, bounce off of them, and move further on upward. The thing I am nervous about, if you remember how much Bitcoin moved, okay, Bitcoin moved 7.5, 7.6% today. We're going into September in 2 days. If you look at September, the performance of Bitcoin in the month of September, Bitcoin usually goes down 6%. So if Bitcoin goes down 6% from here next month, we basically only got a 1.5% increase from our gains today. It's going to give back most of that, probably. Now, September in the last 10 years has only been green or positive 2 out of the last 10 years. So I'm going to err on the side of caution. I'm going to assume that September is probably going to be a bad month, and I'm going to play it cautiously in the month of September. Of course, do your own research, come up with your own decisions, make your own actions, perform your own actions upon your own research and decisions. I'm just some guy on YouTube. I don't really know what's going to happen, but I'm going to assume that September is probably going to be bad. Especially if we look at October and November, they generally have some really good returns. Of course, November is skewed because that's usually when the bull run peaks. But even half of that is over 20% return. With October having 8 out of 10 times being green, November 6 out of 10 times being green. I mean, these are some really good months following September. So I think in September, I'm personally probably going to sit on my hands, watch, look for a low or what I think is a low, and buy there. Start buying, accumulating pretty heavily in that zone there, with the expectation of October and November being really good and going into having next year where we should kick off the next bull cycle. So I'm looking for entry points in September. That's my goal here. September, secure some really good entry points for the bull cycle that's going to start next year. So please like, comment, and subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this, and have a profitable day.